My brother toasted my wedding, then admitted he slept with my fiancée. Everyone laughed, except me. She said you were always working, that she felt unseen. They thought I'd forgive them, but they didn't know I invited his boss's daughter to dinner. She dropped the receipts. I dropped them both, and neither of them saw what I had planned next. My brother stood up at my wedding reception and accidentally revealed he'd been sleeping with my fiancée for months. Everyone laughed, except me. The sound of a fork tapping a champagne glass usually means it's time for something sweet, something sentimental. A toast, a speech, maybe a cringy story from childhood followed by a joke about marriage and love. That's what I expected when my brother stood up, grinning like an idiot with his tie halfway loosened and his eyes just glassy enough to be dangerous. But instead of warmth or laughter, what I got was a moment that would split my life in half. He cleared his throat and lifted his glass. To the man I've looked up to since we were kids, he said, nodding at me. To the one who always got the girl, always had the charm, and somehow managed to lock down the most beautiful woman in the room. Everyone clapped. She smiled. I smiled. I had no idea. Then he smirked. And to the nights we'll never forget, especially the ones I spent with your bride. There was a beat, just a second of stunned silence where the world held its breath. Then laughter. Nervous, scattered laughter from our guests. The kind that fills in awkward silences when no one's sure if they just heard what they think they heard. I turned my head slowly, almost mechanically, toward my new wife. She was staring at the table. Not at me. Not laughing. Just frozen. My chest went tight. I waited for her to laugh too, to look up and say, God, he's such an idiot. But she didn't. She wouldn't meet my eyes. That was the moment I knew something was wrong. He tried to play it off. Kidding, kidding, he said quickly, raising both hands. Bad joke, I know. Just a little too much champagne. The crowd murmured and chuckled. People shook their heads, chalking it up to nerves or alcohol. But I wasn't hearing them anymore. All I could hear was the blood rushing through my ears. I stood up and walked out. Not in a dramatic, stomping exit. Just walked. Straight out the reception hall and into the service hallway behind the kitchen. Cold air hit my face. I leaned against the wall, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of what just happened. Was it a joke? A cruel, idiotic joke? I didn't even hear her footsteps until she was already beside me. She didn't say my name. She didn't reach out. She just stood there, arms folded, like she was waiting for me to speak first. I turned to her. Was that a joke? Silence. I looked her dead in the eye. Tell me it was a joke. Still nothing. Then her shoulders slumped. She closed her eyes like she was bracing for impact, and that was all the answer I needed. How long? I asked, my voice low. She whispered, a few months. A few months. We've been engaged for a year. Together for 3. I was shaking. Not from rage. From something colder. Something that didn't even have a name yet. I took a step back and looked at her like I was seeing her for the first time. The dress, the makeup, the fake smile earlier at the altar. All of it now felt like a costume. I asked why. She opened her mouth and closed it again. Then finally, it just happened. He was there. We were both drinking one night after your birthday. You were asleep upstairs, and we were talking, Anne. I held up my hand. I don't want details. She bit her lip. It didn't mean anything. That line, that tired, recycled line, like betrayal, could be measured by intent. She looked away, then back. We stopped. I swear. It ended months ago, before the wedding. The irony of that phrase, before the wedding, landed in my chest like a punch. I asked one last thing. Did he stop? Or did you? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Behind us, the kitchen door creaked open. My brother stepped out, still holding his champagne glass like an idiot. His face was pale now. He'd sobered up in record time. I shouldn't have said anything, he said quietly. I didn't mean to. I cut him off with one look. You didn't mean to say it out loud? He opened his mouth, then closed it. And right then, in that hallway, no screaming, no theatrics, just the 3 of us standing there like the last broken pieces of a once-perfect picture. I realized I wasn't angry yet. Not really, because anger is loud, and what I felt was silent. It was the kind of silence that settles in your bones when something snaps inside you. When the people you trusted most take a knife to your back and smile while they twist it. When the future you imagined evaporates in front of your eyes, and all you're left with is a question. Who the hell am I now? I looked at both of them. My fiancé, my brother, my wife, and my best man. I said, go back to the party. Tell them I wasn't feeling well. Then I turned and walked out the back door into the dark parking lot. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I needed to get away from the two people who had just ruined everything. And I had no idea that this was just the beginning. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. Instead, I drove to a 24-hour diner 2 towns over and just sat there in the back booth until the sun came up. I don't remember what I ordered. Maybe coffee. Maybe nothing. The waitress didn't ask questions, bless her. Just let me be another silent face under the buzzing lights, staring at a wall like it might offer answers. Around 6 a.m., my phone buzzed. Over 40 missed calls and texts. Half from her. The other half from him. The rest from guests, family, even my mom. All variations of, "Where are you?" or "Please talk to us." I didn't answer any of them. Eventually, I drove to my apartment. Not the one we were supposed to move into after the honeymoon, but my old one. The one I kept while we renovated our dream place. Funny how people say things like that. Dream place, dream wedding, dream girl. Dreams are just lies with better marketing. The second I opened the door, my voicemail pinged. A new one, from her. I stood there and listened, phone pressed to my ear while the stale apartment air pressed down on me. She was crying. "Please don't do this. Can we talk? I know you're hurt. I didn't want you to find out like that. It was a mistake. It meant nothing. I love you, I do. Please call me back." I deleted it. 2 hours later, there was a knock on the door. I knew who it was before I even got up. No one else would be that bold after what happened. Not her. Not my friends. But him? My brother's never known when to stop. I opened it. He was standing there with that same face he always made when he got in trouble as a kid, mouth half open, eyes wide, trying to look innocent even while the evidence was still smeared across his hands. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He walked in like it was still his place too. Sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees, eyes glued to the floor. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," he started. I leaned against the wall and just looked at him. Let him talk. I wasn't ready to say anything yet. I wanted to see how far he'd go with his excuses before I pulled the rug out. "It was after your birthday. You passed out early, and she was downstairs. We had a few drinks, started talking. I don't know what happened. One thing led to another, and—" "Spare me the build-up," I said flatly. He flinched, like I'd hit him. I asked how long. He hesitated. 3, maybe 4 months. I laughed, and it scared even me. It came out dry and hollow, like someone had told a joke in a funeral parlor. "You really couldn't keep it in your pants for 4 months? She said you were always working, that she felt alone, that she didn't think you'd." I walked toward him, and he stood up quickly. Smart. Even in betrayal, he still had some survival instinct. I stared at him. "You were my best man." He looked down. "I know. You gave a speech. You toasted us." He nodded, shame in every movement. "I didn't plan to say it. I drank too much. It just came out. Must have been weighing on you," I said. Like a confession. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he whispered. That's when it hit me, the actual twist of the knife. He wasn't apologizing for sleeping with her. He was apologizing for letting it slip. The betrayal wasn't the mistake. The mistake was saying it out loud. I said, "So if you hadn't said anything, it would have just kept going?" His silence was answer enough. I was about to throw him out when my phone buzzed again. A text. From her. "Can you meet me? Please. Just to talk." I stared at it for a second before showing it to him. "You two still talking?" I asked. His eyes widened. "No. Not since that night. I swear." I tilted my head. Funny. She didn't say that. His expression flickered. Just for a moment. And that's when I knew. They hadn't stopped. This wasn't a mistake months ago. This wasn't something that ended. They were still seeing each other. Even now. Even today. Even after the wedding. I opened the door and pointed. "Get out." He didn't argue. Just nodded and left, still saying sorry as the door shut in his face. I leaned back against it, heart pounding, and tried to make sense of it all. But it wasn't until the next night that the final piece dropped into place. I got a call from my cousin Jess. She'd flown in from another state for the wedding, and she'd always had a sharp eye for drama. "I didn't want to tell you yesterday," she said. "But I saw something." "What?" "Your fiancée. She left the hotel room around midnight the night before the wedding. I followed her. She went into your brother's room. Stayed there for at least an hour. Alone." My hand clenched around the phone. It wasn't just a fling. It wasn't over. And they weren't sorry. They were just stupid enough to think I'd never find out. Or worse, they thought I'd forgive them. but I'd stopped thinking about forgiveness. Now, I was thinking about something else entirely. It was war. A few months ago, she told me she was going on a weekend getaway with her girlfriends. Some bride-to-be reset, she called it. Spa trip, wine, facials, the usual Instagram-ready self-care montage. I didn't think twice. I trusted her. Hell, I even sent her extra cash so she could splurge a little. Turns out I paid for her to cheat on me in a cabin 2 hours north. I was sitting in my apartment the morning after my cousin dropped that bomb about the hotel room when I finally decided to do what I should have done long ago, go through her phone. I still had access to our shared iCloud. It was meant to make wedding planning easier, shared calendars, vendor info, tracking RSVPs. And apparently, all the photos she never bothered deleting. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I was hoping I'd find nothing, that I was being paranoid. But no, they were there. Dozens of them. Her, in a hot tub, champagne glass in hand, candles lit behind her. At first, you couldn't see him. Just her smiling at the camera like everything was fine. Then one video played automatically, and there he was. Off-screen at first. His voice, clear as day. "Babe, turn around. You've got something on your shoulder." And she giggled. She giggled. I paused the video. My heart didn't sink. It dropped straight into the floor. I kept going. One by one, photos loaded. Him lying on the couch behind her. His jacket in the corner. His stupid beat-up sneakers by the fireplace. Same ones he wore the night of our engagement party. The timeline was perfect. She told me she was with her college girls. Meanwhile, she was with him. The guy who used to sleep in bunk beds next to me when we were kids. The guy who swore he always had my back. The worst part? I remembered that weekend. I called her. Twice. Left a voicemail. Just checking in, saying I hoped she was relaxing. She didn't pick up either time. Texted later. "Sorry babe, spa day. Phone's off. Love you." Now I knew what kind of spa it was. I felt physically sick. I don't mean metaphorically. I had to rush to the bathroom and empty whatever was left of the diner food from yesterday. When I came back out, phone still in hand, I realized there was more. Old texts. Backups. She hadn't changed her password since the iCloud sync started. So I dove in. And it wasn't just him. There were messages from another guy. Shorter thread, older, but still there. Flirty. Secretive. Around the time we had our first major fight, back when I worked night shifts to pay off some of her student loans while she went back to school. The messages were vague, mostly about sneaking around and missing last time. I thought we were just going through a rough patch. Turns out she was patching it with someone else's attention. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, wondering how long I'd been the fool in my own story. Then my phone buzzed again. Another text from her. "Please, just meet me. One conversation. That's all I'm asking." I almost threw the phone across the room. But then, I stopped. Something clicked. A calmness I hadn't felt in days settled over me. "You want a conversation? Fine. Let's have one. But on my terms." I texted back. "Tomorrow, 7 p.m. The place we got engaged." She replied in seconds. "I'll be there." Of course she would. She still thought this was salvageable, that a few tears and twisted words would glue everything back together. But I had a different plan. I called my lawyer. No threats. No lawsuits. Just preparation. Then I called someone else. Someone I hadn't spoken to in years. My older cousin Nathan. Bit of a black sheep. Worked in private security. Quiet guy, but sharp. Real sharp. I told him everything. There was a pause. Then he said, "You want to find out everything? The whole thing, not just what she gave you?" "Yes. I'll call you back." That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, feeling everything and nothing at the same time. She thought this was just about forgiveness. About patching things up. She had no idea I was done trying to salvage anything. Tomorrow, I was going to look her in the eyes and start pulling every single thread. Because if she wanted to keep secrets, she should have picked someone who wasn't better at uncovering them. The place we got engaged was a little restaurant just outside the city. Classy but not pretentious. It had a rooftop patio with string lights and soft jazz playing in the background. She loved it. Said it made her feel like she was in a movie. That night I proposed. She cried when I knelt down. Hugged me so hard I thought I'd fall over. Told me I made her feel safe. I remember looking up at her face, tears on her cheeks, thinking, this is the person I want to build my life with. Now I was going back there not to build anything, but to quietly burn the ruins. She got there early. I pulled up and saw her already seated on the patio, hair curled, makeup soft, wearing the same necklace I gave her for our first anniversary. She kept checking her phone like she wasn't sure I'd show, like she was hoping I wouldn't. I walked up without saying a word and sat across from her. She looked up with eyes already rimmed red. Hey. I nodded. There was a long silence. She fiddled with her glass of water, eyes darting everywhere but mine. The waitress came by, asked if we wanted anything. I waved her off. Finally, she spoke. I know what I did was wrong. Understatement of the century. I never wanted to hurt you, she continued. It spiraled. Spiraled? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You were in a hot tub with my brother calling him babe. That doesn't sound like spiraling. That sounds like coordination. She looked stunned, like she hadn't expected me to be calm. Maybe she thought I'd yell, that I'd get emotional, that she could play the victim. But I wasn't giving her that stage. I wasn't thinking clearly, she said quietly. It was a low point. I felt, I don't know, unseen. That word, unseen. She used it before, back when I was working back-to-back shifts trying to save money for our future. When I'd get home late and fall asleep in my work clothes. She called it drifting apart. I called it sacrificing for us. I leaned in. So you slept with my brother because you felt unseen? No, she said quickly. Not because of that. He was there. And I was weak. Weak for 4 months. She flinched. I pulled out my phone and placed it face up on the table. Let me show you something. Her face paled instantly. I opened the photo album. Selected the video. Pressed play. The hot tub. Her laugh. His voice. The candles. She watched for a second, then reached for the phone. I pulled it back. I've got more, I said. Texts. Photos. Even a few from the night before the wedding. You remember that night, right? When you left the hotel to take a walk? Turns out it was a walk into my brother's room. She was shaking now. I didn't want this, she said, voice small. No, I said. You didn't want to get caught. Then I leaned back. I know about the other guy too. Her eyes widened. What other? I tilted my head. Don't play dumb. The messages. Back when I worked nights. You weren't alone then either. She stared at me like I'd just struck her across the face. That was nothing. Just flirting. You called him your escape. Silence. I waited. She buried her face in her hands. I messed everything up. I know. But please, this doesn't have to end ugly. That's when I finally spoke with a calm she wasn't prepared for. Oh, this already ended ugly. You just didn't realize it was over. She dropped her hands, blinking fast. What do you mean? I mean the apartment's already out of your name. I moved our honeymoon money into my private account last week. I've told your job's HR about the trips you expensed under my company perks. Your parents? I sent them the photos already. You what? She whispered. Let me finish. I placed a neatly folded envelope on the table. Inside was a copy of everything. Printouts. Records. A letter from my lawyer explaining the termination of any shared financial contracts. She hadn't signed the marriage license yet. We were going to do it the Monday after the wedding at City Hall. Lucky you, I said. You're not legally my wife. She opened the envelope with shaking hands. As she scanned through it, her breathing got shallow. You've been planning this? I gave the smallest shrug. Let's just say I stopped reacting and started preparing. That's when she tried to pivot. You still love me. I know you do. I stared at her. Love? I don't even recognize you. She looked around, maybe for support, maybe for a miracle. All she found was the waitress returning with the check. I paid for both. She didn't even try to stop me when I got up. Before I walked away, I turned back and said something I'd been waiting to say since the night of the wedding. You didn't just cheat. You threw away the one person who would have gone through hell for you. So congratulations. You're free now. I walked away without looking back. But the story doesn't end there. Because I still had one last piece to play. And my brother? He had no idea that his turn was coming next. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of silence from her, half-hearted calls from my mother trying to understand both sides, and a series of weak texts from my brother that read more like damage control than remorse. The last one he sent me said, "Man to man, I think we need to talk. We're family. We can't let her come between us." I didn't reply, not because I didn't have something to say, but because I wasn't ready to say it yet. Not until the pieces were perfectly arranged. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was clear, focused. This wasn't going to be petty revenge. This was going to be precise. I waited until a Friday night, the same time we used to grab drinks every month as brothers. I texted him. Dinner. My treat. One last conversation. Just you and me. He replied instantly. Glad to hear from you. I've missed you, man. Of course he had. He thought we were going to mend things. Patch up the mess. Because that's what I'd always done. He screws up, I bail him out. He pushes the boundary, I move it back. I made excuses for him our whole lives. That's how he learned to mistake my silence for forgiveness. This time, I chose a quiet Italian place near the waterfront. Cozy, dim lighting, linen napkins. The kind of place that looked like it whispered secrets. I got there early. Gave the waiter a name. Told him I'd be joined by 3 people. He looked confused, but nodded. I tipped him before the food even came out, just to make sure we weren't disturbed. My brother showed up 5 minutes late, dressed like he was going to a casual date. Button-down shirt, no tie, stupid confident smirk. Glad you came, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. I nodded and motioned to the table. Let's sit. He started talking immediately, like nothing happened. Like we were just going to skip over the fact that he destroyed my relationship and humiliated me in front of 150 people on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I just want to say, he started, I know I messed up, but I've been thinking about how we can move forward. I think if we just... I cut him off. We'll get to that. He blinked. Okay. We ordered. Or rather, I did. He barely looked at the menu. Too busy watching me for signs of forgiveness. He was like a gambler trying to guess the next card. 10 minutes in, our third guest arrived. Not who he expected. She walked in slowly, cautiously, like she already sensed something was off. Mid-30s, sharp eyes, dark red lipstick, business suit. She wasn't flashy, but she had a presence. The kind that made the whole restaurant glance her way for a second. She stopped when she saw our table. My brother's face went pale. Rachel, he said. Rachel didn't look at him. She looked at me. You're the one who emailed me. I nodded. Thanks for coming. She sat down across from him, folding her hands. My brother stammered. What the hell is this? Rachel, I said calmly, is the fiancée of James, the guy you've been texting for months. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. Rachel pulled out her phone and placed it on the table. Open messages. His number. His words. Flirtation. Plans. Explicit pictures. I leaned in. She reached out to me after you sent one of those messages last week. You used the same lazy nickname. Angel. Real original. He looked like he'd been hit with a brick. I didn't. I wasn't serious with her, he muttered. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You told me you loved me 2 nights ago. He froze. I kept going. Turns out he's not just a liar, I said. He's consistent. And careless. And guess who James is? Rachel answered for me. My brother. My brother blinked again. And who does James work for? I asked. She smiled coldly. Our father. My brother went sheet white. Oh, I said, feigning realization. You didn't know she was the boss's daughter? He couldn't speak. Not a word. I leaned back. You didn't just wreck my engagement. You wrecked your own shot at a future. You played with fire in 3 different directions, and now you're surprised you got burned. Rachel stood up, tossed a manila envelope onto the table. Here's everything. Send it to HR already. Expect your job to vanish by Monday. She left without another word. I didn't move. Just watched him slowly unravel in the seat across from me. He looked like a kid again. Cornered. Exposed. You set me up, he said weakly. No, I said. You did that all on your own. I just made sure the right people were watching this time. He ran his hands over his face. I thought we were brothers. I stood up. We were. But brothers don't sleep with each other's fiancés. And they definitely don't do it again after they've been caught. He tried to say something else, but I was already walking away. This time, I didn't look back. Because there was nothing behind me worth saving. People think revenge is loud. They picture screaming matches, social media exposés, fists through drywall. But the best revenge? It's quiet. Surgical. It doesn't look like revenge at all, until it's over, and they realize they're standing in the ruins they'd built themselves. After that dinner, I didn't hear from my brother again. He didn't show up to our parents' next family gathering. Didn't answer my mom's calls. I knew why. Word travels fast when you lose your job for sleeping with the boss's daughter behind his back. And Rachel didn't just stop at getting him fired. She made sure James knew exactly why his future brother-in-law got booted. I heard James showed up to his apartment with a baseball bat. Can't say I felt bad. As for her, my almost wife, she sent a single message after the dinner. You didn't have to destroy everything. We could have fixed this. I stared at that text for a while. Not because I was tempted to respond, but because I was amazed. Even after everything, she still thought this was salvageable. She still thought she had something to offer. But I didn't reply. I never would again. That chapter was done, and I wasn't going to hand her another pen. 2 months passed. I got a new apartment. Smaller, quieter, further away from downtown. Gave up the dream home we were building together. Sold my half back to the developer. Took a hit, sure, but peace is worth more than square footage. I started going on walks again. Got back to the gym. Started sleeping. Like, really sleeping, without anxiety clawing at my chest in the dark. I went to therapy, not because I thought I was broken, but because I wanted to understand why I let myself be blind for so long. Why I made room for people who treated me like an option. Why I let loyalty make me stupid. Turns out, there's a word for it. Boundaries. I didn't have them. But now, I've got walls you can't climb unless I lower the rope. One day, I ran into her by accident, at the grocery store of all places. She looked different. Hollow maybe. Worn down in a way that concealer and fake smiles couldn't cover. She tried to start small talk. I didn't. She said she was trying to heal. I said good. Try harder. Then I walked away. She still thinks I walked out because of her mistake. She'll never understand that it wasn't just the betrayal that ended things. It was the realization that I deserved better than someone who needed multiple chances to respect me. My brother, last I heard, moved in with a friend. No job. No Rachel. My mom's still trying to fix things between us, but I'm done being the one who's expected to forgive just because we share blood. I don't hate him. I just don't recognize him anymore. And I don't need to. I've rebuilt my circle. Smaller. Stronger. People who show up when it matters. People who don't flinch at honesty. People who know the value of trust. A friend asked me the other day if I was bitter. I told him no. I'm clean. And sometimes cleaning house means taking out trash you didn't know was rotting. He laughed, said I should put that on a t-shirt. But I meant it. Because in the end, it wasn't a revenge story. It was an extraction. I cut out the rot, and now I can breathe again. That's the real happy ending. Not getting back at them. Just being free of them.